Imagine if you walked around every single day with your bank account open on your phone and you just like handed out your debit card to literally everyone you met.
With the PIN just written right there on the back and permanent marker, right?
Right, exactly. And every time someone needed, I don't know, a little extra cash or a down payment on a house, or they just wanted to run the card to see if it still worked, they took a withdrawal. You would be completely bankrupt by Tuesday.
Oh, 100%. You'd be ruined.
But the crazy thing is, we do this constantly with our time and, well, our emotional energy.
Right.
So today's deep dive is based on this short but deeply resonant reflection. It's called The High Cost and Quiet Freedom of Peace.
Yeah, and it really breaks down exactly how we go emotionally bankrupt and, more importantly, what it actually takes to close that account.
Yes, exactly. Our mission today is to really unpack this profound psychological transition, going from chronic people-pleasing to the hard-earned freedom of what the author calls their protecting my peace era.
It's such a fascinating transition because the author lays bare the actual mechanics of how we burn ourselves out for others. But, the escape route they describe, it is not the standard sterilized version of self-care you usually see on social media.
Right. It's not just bubble baths and face masks.
No, not at all. It is gritty, it's uncomfortable, and it requires this complete dismantling of how we measure our own worth.
Okay, let's unpack this because the author starts by anchoring us in a very specific past. They describe this time of feeling completely obligated to answer every single call, to attend every event, fix every problem, and basically keep everyone happy, even when it's at the expense of their own well-being.
Which is exhausting just to hear.
It really is. It
Yeah.
makes me think of spending your life as a human emotional sponge.
Oh, I like that. The sponge analogy really captures the physical reality of this behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Because think about it. A dry sponge is light, right? It's adaptable.
Yeah, exactly.
But when you spend your life absorbing everyone else's spills, their messes, their chaos, you physically change.
You become incredibly heavy, like you are walking around fully saturated, and you start dripping that ambient stress wherever you go. You ruin the floor beneath you because you are just, holding too much water.
Right, and you can't hold anything else.
Exactly. And the trap here is that you start believing that being fully saturated with other people's problems is actually what makes you a good sponge. You think look how much of their mess I'm holding. I must be incredibly valuable.
And the text addresses that exact illusion with one really devastating line. The author says, "I thought saying yes made me a good person."
Wow, yeah, that is a gut punch.
It really is. That is the core psychological trap right there. The brain literally equates availability with moral worth. But we have to look at the underlying mechanics of why that happens. I mean, from an evolutionary standpoint, human beings survived by remaining useful to the tribe.
Right, because if you weren't useful, you were cast out.
Exactly. And if you were cast out, you wouldn't survive the winter. It was literal life or death.
But in a modern context, that survival instinct completely gets hijacked. I mean, we aren't hunting and gathering anymore. We are, navigating group chats and workplace demands. But, I mean, isn't saying yes and helping people generally how we build community?
That's a great point.
How does it cross from being a good community member into this, pathology?
Well, it crosses the line when the yes becomes systemic self-sacrifice, which the author actually notes by adding, "at the expense of my own well-being." You see, altruism is giving from a place of surplus,
Okay.
but chronic people-pleasing is giving from a place of deficit, just to secure your standing. It is a highly transactional view of human relationships.
So it's not really about the other person at all.
No, the subconscious logic is, if I say yes, I am helpful, therefore I am good. Therefore, I have basically purchased my right to take up space in this relationship.
Oh, wow. So the relationship isn't actually based on mutual affection at all. It's like a subscription model, and you're paying your monthly fee with your own energy.
That is perfectly put, yes. And when yes is your only currency for proving your worth, well, setting a boundary suddenly feels like a moral failure.
Because you're stopping the payments.
Exactly. You start to believe that prioritizing your own rest is inherently selfish or even actively harmful to others.
That completely reframes the guilt. Every unanswered phone call doesn't just feel like a minor social faux pas, It triggers this deep existential dread.
Because your brain thinks you're going to be kicked out of the tribe.
Yeah, you aren't just tired from carrying the water, you are constantly feeling guilty because you fear you aren't absorbing enough to just like justify your existence.
Which means stopping that absorption process is going to be agonizing. The transition out of that mindset is where the author's text becomes incredibly revealing.
Right, because the author describes their current piece as having a quiet house, watching a favorite show, and basically keeping their phone on silent.
Which sounds amazing.
It sounds like the cheapest, easiest weekend imaginable. You literally just do nothing. Yet, the author explicitly describes this piece as expensive.
This raises an important question, doesn't it?
Yeah, they write, I've learned that peace is expensive, and I paid for mine with life lessons, disappointments, sleepless nights, and hard-earned wisdom. But wait, if the destination is just a quiet house and a silent phone, why on earth the toll so astronomically high?
Because the cost isn't financial, right? It is the immense internal friction of unlearning that ingrained survival habit.
The people-pleasing habit.
Exactly. When you have spent decades believing that your worth is tied to your availability, shutting off your phone does not feel peaceful at first. The brain perceives it as a massive threat.
So you're basically in panic mode.
Totally. The sleepless nights the author mentions are really crucial to understand here. Those aren't the sleepless nights of staying up late fixing someone else's problem.
Oh, wow. They're the sleepless nights of lying awake, staring at the ceiling, wrestling with the overwhelming guilt of not fixing the problem.
Yes. It is literal withdrawal symptoms, but for the people pleaser.
That is wild.
You put your phone on silent, and the neural pathways that kept you safe for years are just screaming at you. They are telling you, what if they need me? What if they're angry? What if they think I don't care?
You have to physically and emotionally survive those sleepless nights just to get to the peace.
You really do. You have to endure the severe discomfort of knowing someone out there is upset with you and actively practice doing absolutely nothing to soothe them.
But, I mean, doesn't that just replace the anxiety of obligation with the anxiety of conflict? Like, if you know someone is out there fuming because you didn't pick up the phone, how can you possibly enjoy the quiet house?
And that is exactly where the currency of disappointments comes in. The author had to pay for their peace by letting people be disappointed.
Ooh, that's hard.
It is very hard. Because when you change the rules of engagement, the people who are completely accustomed to, wringing their messes out on your emotional sponge, they're going to be frustrated.
Right, because they benefited immensely from the old arrangement.
Exactly. Weathering their frustration and potentially losing some of those relationships entirely, that is a staggering price to pay.
It requires mourning the loss of your old identity, really. You have to look in the mirror and accept that you are no longer the hero who swoops in to save the day.
Yeah, that's a tough pill to swallow for a lot of people.
You might actually be the villain in someone else's story now simply because you refuse to carry their water.
And that is the hard-earned wisdom the text points to. You realize that you cannot protect your peace and perfectly preserve every single relationship in your life.
Right, the two goals are mutually exclusive.
They really are. Buying back your own autonomy requires you to endure the friction of boundary setting until it stops feeling like a threat and starts feeling like, well, a baseline reality.
Okay, so here's where it gets really interesting. Once that toll is paid, the author arrives at this destination, this protecting my peace era. They describe relaxing, gaming, just scrolling through social media, but they immediately pivot to clarify what this lifestyle is not.
Right, they get very defensive.
Yeah, they actively defend their solitude. They say, it's not that I don't love people, it's not that I'm angry or bitter. It seems, I don't know, strange that someone experiencing profound peace would feel the need to preemptively defend themselves against accusations of bitterness.
What's fascinating here is that the author is acutely aware of how society stigmatizes the act of pulling back.
Oh, for sure.
When someone suddenly steps away from that perpetual motion machine of social obligation, the culture often diagnoses them as antisocial or depressed or just angry.
The assumption is that you are shutting the world out because you have been wounded, and you are, like, building a wall.
Yes, but they are saying, I am not hiding from the world because I hate it. I am retreating into my own space because I finally enjoy my own company.
So they aren't building a wall to keep love out. They are installing a filter.
That is a brilliant way to put it. A wall is indiscriminate, right? But a filter requires discernment.
Exactly.
The text explicitly states that the author simply no longer has the desire to entertain unnecessary drama, chaos, or negativity. They haven't stopped loving people. They have just stopped loving the chaos that dysregulated people bring into their environment.
Which makes so much sense.
There is a profound emotional maturity in being able to look at someone you care about and recognize, I love you, but I do not have the capacity for your manufactured crisis today.
That distinction fundamentally reframes how we view alone time. There's a line in the author's reflection that completely stops you in your tracks. They say, "The older I get, the more I realize that solitude isn't loneliness, it's freedom."
We often conflate the two, don't we?
Yeah.
But they are psychologically opposite states. Loneliness is a state of deprivation.
Right. It's a lack of something.
Yes, it is desiring connection and suffering from its absence. Solitude, conversely, is a state of completion. It is being entirely grounded and content without external input.
So for the chronic people pleaser, solitude is terrifying because their entire identity is externally generated. Like if there is no one around to need them, they sort of cease to exist.
Exactly. They don't know who they are when they aren't on call.
Breaking that cycle transforms solitude from an empty room into a sanctuary. It becomes the ultimate freedom because, for the first time in your life, you are off the clock.
Yes. Your time belongs exclusively to you without the looming shadow of impending obligation.
So what does this all mean? How does the author actually navigate the world now? Because that shift from loneliness to freedom demands an entirely new operating system for life.
It really does.
The author didn't just turn off their phone and sit in a dark room. They developed a new hierarchy of values for how they dispense their energy. They write that they have reached a place where protecting my energy matters more than proving a point.
That's a huge one.
Yeah, and where rest feels better than reacting, and where peace feels better than being right.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, and you apply those rules to the modern world, you see how radical this shift actually is.
Oh, absolutely.
Think about the architecture of our daily lives. Social media algorithms, family text threads, workplace politics. The entire ecosystem is engineered to extract a reaction from you.
It really is. It demands that you constantly defend your position, prove your point, and basically win the argument.
Yes.
But this is incredibly difficult in practice, right? Like when someone is factually wrong in a group chat or when someone completely misrepresents something you did, there's an immediate, almost biological urge to fix it.
I know the feeling.
Your fingers literally itch to type out a paragraph explaining exactly why they are incorrect.
And that urge is driven by the dopamine hit of validation. Being right provides a very quick, very intoxicating burst of superiority and control.
But it's so draining.
It is inherently chaotic. The author has basically weighed the temporary chaotic validation of being right against the quiet, sustainable contentment of remaining rested. And they decided the math just doesn't favor the argument.
It is a realization that you don't have to attend every argument you are invited to. You can look at a conflict and say, you know what? You can have the last word, and you can even think you won, because I am keeping my energy.
Letting someone else be wrong without feeling any internal compulsion to correct them is an extraordinary superpower.
It really is a superpower.
It means you have successfully decoupled your emotional stability from other people's perceptions.
The author captures this beautifully by saying they are okay with spending a little more time with myself and a little less time in other people's confusion.
That's such a great line.
Right. That phrasing, other people's confusion, is so revealing. It acknowledges that the vast majority of the drama we get sucked into doesn't even belong to us in the first place.
We constantly adopt other people's poor planning or their emotional dysregulation or their complete lack of boundaries as our own personal emergency.
Yeah, someone throws their confusion over your fence, and the old you would pick it up, sort it out, and hand it back to them neatly organized.
Exactly. But the new you just looks at the mess on the lawn and leaves it right there.
You allow other people to experience the natural consequences of their own chaos. You let them be confused over there while you stay peaceful over here.
That is the ultimate boundary. You're allowing others to have their own experiences without making it your responsibility to fix, moderate, or even react to them.
We have tracked a massive psychological shift today. I mean, we started with the illusion that saying yes constantly is the metric of a good person, and we explored the heavy physical and emotional toll of being that human emotional sponge.
The heavy, saturated sponge.
Exactly. And we moved through the friction of the transition, really understanding that buying your peace means enduring the withdrawal symptoms of people-pleasing and paying the currency of sleepless nights.
Yes, paying for it with discomfort.
And finally, we unpacked the destination, the realization that solitude is a state of completion. and that protecting your finite energy is vastly more important than the fleeting validation of proving you are right.
It really is a complete recalibration of how you interact with the world around you.
Which brings this directly back to you, the listener. The core truth embedded in this reflection is that your energy, your time, and your emotional capacity are finite resources. They run out.
They absolutely do.
Deciding to protect those resources is not an act of bitterness, and it isn't a failure of love. It is a hard-earned right. You are allowed to put your phone on silent. You are allowed to enjoy a quiet house without justifying it to anyone.
And, the author ends the piece with a casual but telling sign-off. They ask, anybody else in their protecting my peace era?
It's an invitation.
It is. But based on the currency we discussed today, it leaves us with a very challenging reality to consider.
Right, because if the currency of this piece includes the disappointment of others, you basically have to make a difficult calculation.
Yeah. Yes. If true freedom is found in protecting your peace, does that mean you must become permanently comfortable with disappointing the people who still expect the old, accommodating version of you?
Wow, that's a heavy question.
Is the ultimate test of your peace your ability to let others be disappointed in you so that you don't have to be exhausted?
It is easy to say you want peace. It is much harder to accept that your peace might actively inconvenience someone else and to choose it anyway. That is the real cost right there.
It is.
Take some time today to pull your emotional debit card back, put it in your wallet, enjoy the quiet of your own house, leave the phone on silent, and maybe just let some people be disappointed. We will catch you on the next deep dive.